thing we often say in boxing and fighting in general is, well, you got in the ring. We often appreciate the idea that people put their money where their mouths were. It is extremely hard to get into a ring. People think they know fighting, but there's a lot they haven't experienced. No, you can't just rip an eye out. More importantly, when you get into a ring, a lot of physical processes start. You get nervous, you get tunnel vision, and that space that was so big on the outside seems much smaller all of a sudden. That's why you usually congratulate someone who had the courage to show up and do the rounds. However, after all of this, I don't think we should. People like Jake Paul and all the influencers have made a mockery of this discipline and have brought more negative than positive. Let's start with the positive. Yes, I am aware that for some fighters, it is an opportunity to get on that card. That's one more paycheck and promoters can be fickle. So what if you're on the undercard of Jake Paul? Well, in the short term it might be a gain, but it has no long-term value. For starters, if you look at the crowds, most people are just Paul fans or just there to be with their friends and for the hype. Most of them are on their phone and don't really care. So the actual fighters don't really get recognition. No one will look at a Jake Paul fight and go, "Oh wow, I like boxing now. I'm gonna start following all these legitimate fighters that were on the undercard." The best representatives of fighting are put behind loud-mouthed kids who never grew up that would do anything for attention or money.
You weren't landing! You weren't landing! You weren't landing! Look at your face! Look at your eyes! Huh? Look at you! Look at you! I don't know! I understand! I'm the YouTuber and you're the boxer! You have to win!
When people watch boxing, that's what they will see. That's the new image of the discipline. There's also the danger it represents to the participants. You don't play boxing. Paul found that out when he ended with a broken jaw in 2 places and some missing teeth. People think that because it has been classified as a combat sport, boxing is just that, a sport. However, you find yourself in difficult situations when you lack offense and even more with a lack of defense. When facing an opponent of similar strength, it's hard to really make a dent. Hence, a lot of fights go to a decision. When you have a skill gap or when the both of you are untrained, someone is on the end of a knockout. Getting these retired fighters out of a retirement is terrible. No, it's not a script. It's called cherry picking. Jake has become decent enough that he can win against a very old fighter. Time catches up to everybody. People are happy to see Tony Ferguson, and I'm no different, but do you know what Alzheimer or CTE is? CTE is the new buzzword. Long story short, it's what happens when you get hit in the head. You get a cocktail of chemicals, and these chemicals end up in places where they shouldn't be, and they accumulate and become tau proteins, and it causes the degeneration of your brain. Tony Ferguson had his wife call cops to their residence when he started becoming erratic and talking about people in the walls. He played American football, a sport well known for injuries. He then had an 11-fight losing streak with 2 knockouts and another 1 or 2 losses where he was close to that. He took a lot of damage against Paddy Pimblett. When someone dies, people will say how dangerous boxing is, and they're right, but you can minimize the damage by having competent people fight another. Here's the thing, I love video games. Unfortunately, the medium has attracted a lot of average Joes, and Joes attract psychopaths who drain the thing for all it's worth. People that are greedy, loud, and flashy. People who feel no shame and don't have respect for the integrity of an art. Everyone gets in on the new thing. Take bites, they take pieces, but they don't give back. In boxing especially, we have these clown fights all the time. Celebrities no longer limit themselves to amateur bouts like they used to. We now have anyone fighting anyone, and it really gives this bad image of the entire thing. Yes, maybe you got to appear on an event, but no one really cares. The well for this type of event has basically dried up because it's clear that the quality is not there. Good fighters are being put aside while clowns are fighting. Yeah, you got into the ring, but maybe you shouldn't have.